Naruto is my favorite series to make fan theories about. The whole series is laid out so intricately that changing just one tiny detail has ripple effects that eventually change everything. One of the big ones, in my opinion, has always been Naruto's early life and training. Naruto had so much untapped potential that he thought he was a worthless ninja, which turned out to be completely false. And I mean, it's pretty odd to have a Jinchuriki that's just left ignored, right? Well, what would happen if we did the exact opposite of that? Sarutobi gave Naruto a normal life, so let's assume it wasn't him making the decisions. What would happen if someone like Danzo got to decide what became of the son of the 4th Hokage? My name is Zero, this is Kato, and today let's talk about Naruto if he was raised in Root. Root training has two main goals. The first is to create ninja capable of protecting the Leaf Village from the shadows, doing the missions that ordinary ninja wouldn't or couldn't do. The second is to be absolutely loyal to Danzo in all things. Hence, Root training mainly focuses on both removing a person's emotions and instilling absolute loyalty in the organization. For the Root members we've seen, they all usually have to suppress their emotions and then kill someone they're close to as a kind of full initiation. This is what we saw with Sai, as his final test was to kill his closest friend in Root. If someone is exceptionally talented or gifted, then they might receive personal training from Danzo himself, like what happened with Yamato. This is exactly what would happen to Naruto. Naruto is kind-hearted. That's pretty much his biggest character trait in the entire series. I don't think it would be long before Naruto got close enough to someone in Root that he'd be assigned to kill them. Naruto would almost definitely be Root's #1 priority, which would mean he'd go through just as much brainwashing as was necessary to make him just like every other member of Root. There have been plenty of times in the series when Naruto has almost faltered, almost given in to the darkness. All of those times, Naruto has always had someone watch out for him. In Root, the person watching out for him is Danzo, so I don't see any reason why he wouldn't just become a normal Root operative after a while. Then we come to Naruto's actual training. In the original series, Naruto's training was basically non-existent before Jiraiya. Kakashi might have taught Naruto a few things, but his attention was clearly focused much more on Sasuke, for good reason. Jiraiya taught Naruto the Rasengan before the time skip, but the 2.5 years after that didn't really seem to teach Naruto much, just how to dip his toe in Ninetales chakra. Aside from that, Naruto was better at taijutsu and could use his clones better, and that's pretty much it. Jiraiya just honed his fundamentals. That was great, something he totally needed, but it definitely doesn't seem like it should have taken that long. Maybe this is a realistic rate of growth for most ninjas, but we know it isn't for Naruto. This is the same Naruto who went from not even knowing what chakra natures were to perfecting the Rasen Shuriken in the span of a few weeks. Naruto is clearly talented, he was just never taught right. Danzo wouldn't make the same mistake everyone else did. He would train Naruto personally, training him in all kinds of different jutsu. As it happens, Danzo is a wind specialist, just like Naruto. It wouldn't be long before Naruto knew his chakra nature. Danzo would likely teach him some of his own jutsu. Danzo was even shown to use some summons, so I don't see any reason why Naruto wouldn't eventually have a few summons of his own. These would, however, be far weaker summons than the one he has in the main series. I also don't see any way for Naruto to learn Senjutsu, so Sage Mode is already out of the question. Maybe Danzo would realize Naruto has aptitude for it, but that seems unlikely. One interesting possibility, and one that was never touched on in the original series, is Sealing Jutsu. Danzo is no Minato, but his Sealing Jutsu are clearly competent. Every member of Root has a seal on their tongue, preventing them from leaking intel to people not supposed to have it. Besides that, Danzo also used the reverse force symbol sealing upon his death to try to take Sasuke and Madara down with him. It's clear that his collaborations with Orochimaru have made him well versed in curse seals. Sealing jutsu in general are probably the vaguest set of techniques in the entire Naruto franchise, so it's impossible to say just what Naruto would be able to do. For example, there isn't much established knowledge about the Uzumaki sealing techniques, so it's impossible to say just how much there would be to pass on. What's more interesting is how Naruto's Jinchuriki training would go. It's almost ridiculous to think that the Leaf Village had the single strongest weapon on the planet inside of it, and nobody ever even bothered to consider using it. I'm not talking about making Naruto a weapon here, but just someone teaching Naruto the bare basics of being a Jinchuriki before Jiraiya would have gone a long way. The Ninetales is by far the strongest tailed beast, and Danzo wouldn't waste a second in trying to use it. Gaara eventually became little more than an unstable tool, the Sand Village's final trump card in any fight. That's exactly what Naruto himself would be, with him being taught from a pretty young age how to control the tailed beast inside of him. I suspect this training would go pretty far, maybe so far as Part 1 Naruto being able to fully use a version 2 cloak, kinda like what Killer Bee had. This training would be both difficult and dangerous. Naruto almost killed Jiraiya himself when Jiraiya weakened his seal. Still, Danzo has Yamato, the only person capable of somewhat safely suppressing the Nine Tails. I don't see any reason why Danzo wouldn't eventually be able to weaken the Nine Tails seal either. This would either be him doing it himself or with the help of Orochimaru, but it would happen. Naruto would be a weapon far, far stronger than Gaara himself was, making the Leaf Village by extension far stronger than it would have otherwise been. The problem is that I don't see Naruto ever really accessing the full power of the Nine Tails. The Sand Village could barely control Gaara, and from everything we know, controlling the Nine Tails would be many, many times harder than that. Jonin wouldn't even be able to handle Naruto with the version 2 cloak. Even Yamato was only really shown suppressing Naruto's four-tailed form. While he could probably suppress more, that would still be a far cry from suppressing an entire Nine Tails. I'm sure that Danzo would try to make Naruto go that far, before realizing that it was a mistake that he shouldn't have made. Luckily for him, this is where the 4th Hokage's last protection would step in, redoing the seal. From then on, Naruto would fight almost entirely in a version 2 beast cloak like B. Maybe Minato could talk Naruto out of the brainwashing, and this could be a point where this what-if storyline converges with the fate of the main plot. But it's also possible that Minato fails to notice or undo Danzo's programming. One interesting thing that could possibly be in the cards is Danzo training Naruto to someday become his successor. Think about it, Danzo is already well past his prime when the series starts, and it's not like he's reaching for immortality like Orochimaru is. From everything we know about Root, Danzo doesn't really have a replacement for himself lined up. When Danzo died, it wasn't like there was anyone to fill his shoes. While a Naruto trained from birth would be as good a choice as Danzo could ever possibly have. A genius ninja that happens to also be a Jinchuriki is as good as it can get. Besides, I suspect Naruto would be far more loyal than just about anyone else in Root. For everyone else who was in Root, like Yamato, they all had some kind of a past that they had to first sever. Naruto is pretty much just a blank slate. He'd have no friends, no parents, absolutely nothing at all. All he would know is Root and Danzo, so that's all he would care about. Danzo is beyond manipulative, so I can see Naruto's indoctrination going pretty far. This is the same Danzo that manipulated the genius Itachi into killing his family, so I don't see Naruto breaking loose. Besides, even if Danzo wants to be exceptionally paranoid, he has a trump card to make sure Naruto is forever loyal to Root, Shisui's Koto Matsukami. Danzo has a pretty big time limit on using that genjutsu, but securing the future of both Root and Konoha seems like a good use for the ability, I think. One interesting fallout of all this is that Danzo would almost definitely become the 5th Hokage. In the original series, Tsunade only ever came back because Naruto managed to drag her back. In this timeline, that would never happen. Jiraiya only thought he could convince Tsunade because he had Naruto with him. That's about where the good news for Danzo ends. There's a much bigger threat on the horizon, one that was always going to come for Naruto, the Akatsuki. I think this version of Naruto would be strong enough to handle even Kage level fighters eventually, but there's a limit to how strong he could get. For instance, this version of Naruto would never have access to Sage Mode, which was the only reason he stood any chance against Pain at all. Maybe with a complete arsenal of new abilities and a controllable version 2 cloak, he could still stand a chance against Nagato. But this Naruto definitely couldn't convince him to use Rinne Rebirth. Besides, it doesn't just end with Nagato either. The far bigger threat would of course be Madara himself. In the original timeline, Naruto had access to far more of Kurama's power than he does in this one, and even that wasn't enough. It's easy to forget, but the only reason Naruto ever did anything to Madara was because Kakashi was also there. This Naruto probably doesn't have the same bonds of friendship either. This version of Naruto is completely alone. The Root doesn't seem like it has a big culture of camaraderie. Even if he does make it that far, this is as far as he can go. Naruto would eventually get captured, and that would be the end. I also doubt that there would be that many people alive to witness his fall. In the original timeline, Naruto's clones were an integral part of the war. A single shadow clone using Sage Mode beat a Raikage when an entire battalion of ninja couldn't do anything. Honestly, no matter how you think about it, the entire world is doomed as soon as we get to the 4th Great Ninja War. So this timeline would probably just end with the Infinite Tsukiyomi, with either Madara or Kaguya ruling over the world, depending on how that plays out. I suppose looking really deeply into this did reinforce a key theme of Naruto. I remember being pretty frustrated when Naruto Shippuden rolled around and Naruto still, well, didn't know anything. Yet the original timeline also equipped him with the things he needed to actually win out in the end. Learning under Jiraiya is what gave him the outlook he needed to convince Pain to betray Akatsuki. It's what let him convince Madara later on. It's what let him convince his enemies that he was right. His tragic life was the reason why he went after Sasuke, pushing the two even farther. Naruto became the strongest ninja ever when he could pretty much just use 20 different kinds of Rasengan and shadow clones. Training under Root would replace that with more immediate power, but Naruto wouldn't have his unbreakable will when he'd really need it. In that, I suppose it's safe to say that his Root training would be useless. The Naruto we know and love has less talent, but more potential.